We've all heard it before. The voice that tells us to push through pain, to never stop, to accept no excuses. But what if I told you that sometimes the loudest voice isn't the wisest one? What if the path to your greatest achievements isn't paved with exhaustion and self-judgment, but with something more powerful? Today, I'm inviting you to do something revolutionary. Not to ignore your challenges, but to rise above them. To transform not just what you do, but how you see. Welcome to Rise Above. The no excuses mentality has inspired millions. And there's power in it, the recognition that we often limit ourselves unnecessarily. But here's what those videos don't tell you. Sustainable transformation rarely comes from shame or force. Consider this. Studies show that 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by February. Why? Because determination alone isn't enough. The truth is, your excuses aren't your enemy. They're messengers. And when we learn to listen to them rather than simply fight them, they can become the map to our transformation. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about raising your awareness, about building a foundation that doesn't crack under pressure. This is where the RISE framework comes in, a different approach to achieving what matters most to you. RISE stands for Recognize Your Patterns and True Obstacles. Initiate small, strategic actions. Sustain your progress through systems, not just willpower. Evolve as challenges change. This framework isn't about overnight transformation. It's about consistent, meaningful progress that compounds over time. Let me show you how this works in real life through the stories of people who have used these principles to transform their lives. The first step is to recognize not just your goals, but the actual patterns that have kept you from achieving them. Recognition isn't about blame. It's about clarity, about seeing the gap between your intentions and your actions without judgment. Try this exercise. For the next 3 days, observe your patterns without trying to change them. Where does your time actually go? What thoughts arise when you consider your goals? What emotions come up when you face obstacles? This recognition was the turning point, because you can't overcome what you don't understand. Your patterns might include procrastination, perfectionism, comparing yourself to others, or simply staying in your comfort zone. Each pattern serves a purpose, usually protection from something you fear. Recognition means seeing these patterns clearly, understanding their purpose, and then making a conscious choice about whether they still serve you. So ask yourself, what patterns have you been blind to? What excuses have become so familiar that you no longer question them? Recognition isn't about force. It's about illumination. Once you recognize your patterns, it's time to initiate action, but not in the way you might expect. The conventional wisdom says, go big or go home. But the science of behavior change tells a different story. The problem wasn't Sarah's commitment. It was her approach. This is the power of small, strategic actions. They bypass the resistance that massive changes create. I call this the minimum effective dose, the smallest action that will produce a meaningful result. It's not about doing the least possible. It's about finding the optimal starting point. For someone who's never exercised, that might be a 5-minute walk. For someone wanting to write a book, it might be 50 words a day. For someone building a business, it might be making 1 sales call daily. The key is consistency over intensity, because what you do every day matters more than what you do once in a while. So ask yourself, what's the smallest action you could take today toward your goal? What's so easy you can't say no? Remember, rivers don't carve canyons with force. They do it with consistency. This brings us to the third principle, sustain. Because starting is one thing, continuing is another. We all know the pattern. Initial excitement, followed by the messy middle, where motivation fades and obstacles arise. This is where most people quit. But what if I told you that motivation isn't supposed to stay constant? That relying on it is like building a house on shifting sand? Systems are the bridges that carry you over motivation gaps. They're the structures that make continuing easier than quitting. A system might be as simple as setting out your workout clothes the night before, or as involved as a detailed project management workflow. The key is that it removes the need for repeated decision-making. But perhaps the most powerful system is community. Contrary to the lone wolf narrative of many motivational videos, the most successful people rarely achieve greatness in isolation. Research shows that our chances of success increase dramatically when we're surrounded by people who reflect our desired future. So ask yourself, what systems can you build to sustain your progress? And who can you surround yourself with on this journey? Because sustainability isn't about white-knuckling through challenges. It's about creating an environment where success becomes the path of least resistance. The final principle of the RISE framework is perhaps the most important: evolve. In nature, the species that survive aren't necessarily the strongest or fastest. They're the ones most responsive to change. The same is true for our goals and growth. Evolution isn't about abandoning your vision. It's about being willing to adjust your approach based on feedback and changing circumstances. This requires something rarely mentioned in motivational videos: humility, the willingness to admit when something isn't working and to try a different approach. Evolution also means understanding that growth isn't linear. It's cyclical. There will be periods of intense progress, plateaus, and even temporary setbacks. When you understand this rhythm, setbacks become less discouraging. They're not the end of the story, just part of the natural cycle of growth. History is filled with people who faced enormous obstacles and failures before their breakthrough. The difference wasn't that they never failed. It's that they evolved through failure. So ask yourself, how can you use your setbacks as feedback? What adjustments might turn obstacles into opportunities? Because true resilience isn't about never falling. It's about learning to rise in new ways each time you do. We began this journey by questioning the no excuses mentality that dominates motivational content. Not to dismiss the importance of accountability, but to deepen it, to make it sustainable rather than punishing. The RISE approach, recognize, initiate, sustain, and evolve, offers a different path. Not one of constant battle against yourself, but of growing alignment between who you are and who you want to become. This isn't just about achievement. It's about who you become in the process, about building a life that doesn't require escape. Because the ultimate goal isn't just to reach a destination. It's to create a journey worth taking. So I invite you now to take the first step, not with judgment or force, but with curiosity and courage. To recognize where you truly are, to initiate one small action, to build systems that sustain you, and to evolve as the journey unfolds. If you're ready for this approach, we've created resources to support your journey. A community of fellow travelers, guides for applying these principles to your specific goals. But even if you do nothing else, remember this: your challenges don't define you. Your excuses don't limit you. They're simply invitations to rise above, to see differently, to act purposefully, and to become the person who achieves what once seemed impossible. Not through force, but through transformation. Throughout this journey, we've questioned the narrative that success comes only through force. We've explored a different path, one of understanding, intentional action, sustainable progress, and continuous evolution. The truth is, transformation isn't a single moment of triumph. It's found in the quiet decisions you make when no one is watching, in the small steps taken consistently, in the willingness to begin again differently when you falter. What if the breakthrough you seek isn't waiting at the end of exhaustion, but in the space of possibility that opens when you approach your challenges with wisdom instead of just willpower? Remember, every mountain that stands before you was once a pebble that refused to be moved. Every river that carves through stone does so not with brute force, but with the gentle persistence of flowing water. This is your invitation, not just to rise above your limitations, but to bring others with you on the journey. Because true transformation is never just about what we achieve, but about who we become and what we make possible for others. Your story continues now, and it begins with a single step. If you found value in this message today, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our weekly insights on sustainable transformation. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that there's a different path to growth, one that honors their journey while elevating their potential. Leave a comment below sharing one small step you'll take today. Our community thrives when we learn from each other's experiences. And for those ready to go deeper, visit riseabove.com for our complete transformation system, including personalized coaching and our supportive community of like-minded individuals on the path to meaningful change. Remember, your challenges don't define you. They're simply invitations to rise above.